Hi Devin, it's Julie and Deb, and we thought it would be kind of fun since we were on your 100th episode that we would send a little hello for your 200th episode to help you celebrate. We love your podcast, we love you, and all the friends we've met because of you, and we are looking forward to the next 100 podcasts.
As an avid sock knitter, I'm looking forward to the League of Extraordinary Knitters, sock knitters, and we got our books bound, which was a great tip, and we are really excited to make socks. Well, I'm excited.
I have anxiety that I'm not going to get in. I'm so nervous that I'm not going to get in.
We have our timer set.
You made me so nervous on the last video. I don't know that I'm going to get in. Now I'm nervous.
I told her, relax. I'll get us both in.
Anyway, we are excited to see you and all the wonderful friends that we've made through you in Texas. God bless Texas.
Hey, knitters. Welcome to episode 200 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. Woo woo! 200. I like to dance. I'm bad at dancing, but I like to dance. I am so excited to be here. Yay! Welcome to episode 200. Thank you, Julie and Deb, for that wonderful introduction. You may know Julie from the Knitty McCats podcast. No, the Knitty Cats podcast, and that is her lovely sister, Deb. They are my wonderful friends from Colorado who I met at the last retreat and who are coming to my retreat in Dallas, and they're just wonderful, wonderful ladies. So thank you so much for that introduction, ladies. That was awesome. It is like sort of starting to feel like fall here. It feels like every day is a gorgeous day. It's like all beautiful and sun, but the past few days have been a little bit warm and I'm kind of over it. Like, I know that the summer clingers are happy about that probably, but for me, I prefer the nice cold fall weather. I'm a little bit warm right now, but I've got the fan on and my son is not mowing right now. I'm so sorry that last episode, like the whole second half was like, brrr. I was editing and I'm like, what is that? What's on? And I paused it. I was like, oh, that's my boy mowing the grass. So no one is mowing right now. He is occupied, but you know, with the neighbors, you never really know. Anyway, my oldest daughter is home this weekend from college. So it has been awesome to see her. Just so good. She's having such a great semester and I'm so happy and life is great. I am wearing my Williamsburg cowl. Some of you know this cowl very, very well because you have knit it a bunch of times. Is it right? Is it inside out? I think I have it on inside out. I do. All right, starting over. This is a great cowl. I have it in this color and this color. And these were kits. This one is from Kim Dye's Yarn, this yarn. And this one was a kit in my shop a few years ago before I started dyeing yarn and I was purchasing yarn from other dyers. It's a great piece because it lays really nicely. I love a cowl that's a trapezoid because it will lay nice. Cowls that are straight up and down always lay wrong. I don't know. When the designer holds it up like this, you're like, ooh, it's so pretty and there's no increasing or decreasing. But then when you go to wear it, you're like, this just doesn't look good. That's been my experience anyway, but I really like a trapezoid shaped cowl. And this one is so fun because it has cables and bobbles and it's just really fun. It's a really fun single skein project. All right, progress and shop news. I have been very busy dyeing your pre-orders. Thank you so much. After my last episode, you guys loved the last episode. I think you loved my political announcement where I was just really looking out for your gauge. I had a few comments where people said, oh, you know, I'm gonna watch the election and I'm gonna be knitting this. And I'm like, be careful. Like, you cannot let your emotional state affect your knitting. Don't just go super tight. You've gotta relax and chill and just ease through your knitting. But anyway, you guys love the last episode. Thank you so much. Thank you for choosing my shop. Thank you for choosing my podcast. I know there's a million shops and there's a million podcasts, so I really appreciate you choosing mine. I feel so much gratitude in getting to dye this yarn for you and that you chose mine. So thank you so much. All of those pre-orders, if they haven't gone out to you already, should go out on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, it's been really great. Also, the color of the month is here. I'm sorry that it took me until, it says the 2nd, right? Yeah, it took me until the 2nd to get it on the website because my daughter is home and it's just been a lot of stuff and it's been great. But anyway, that is up on the website right now and I'm gonna show it to you. Are you ready? Isn't it gorgeous? I love it. It's just deep and brownish, grayish, purplish. So this is the sock set. And here it is in Frankfurt fingering. And it always looks a little more saturated in DK. Something about the makeup of the DK yarn, which has this beautiful twist. See the beautiful twist that the Dubrovnik DK has? I just love that. So that is it. What do you think? Let me show you what it coordinates with. So it looks amazing with thistle. How gorgeous would that be? What else can we put with that? Oh, check it. Bosque. How about, and on the back of it, I listed a bunch of colors that it goes with, and I forgot to mention Morel. Morel is another deep, moody color. Morel and Black Forest Cake. It's so pretty. And Pewter and Dusty. It just looks really, it depends, you know, which way do you want to lean? If you want to lean kind of light, you can go light. If you want to go darker, you can go darker. There's Black Forest Cake, November, and Dusty. Ooh, what about, whoops, ooh, there it goes. What about Go Green? Oh, that's so pretty. I just love it. I'm so, so happy with how it came out. It's gorgeous. So that's available on the website right now. The thing I have the least of is just the Frankfurt fingering, but I do have a ton of sock sets. So if the fingering weight sells out, you can grab a sock set and then you'll just have an extra mini on hand too, which is always nice. If you didn't want to make socks, it's still nice to have a coordinating color in there. But there's lots of sock sets, lots of DK. Go grab one of those if you want to. Speaking of stuff that was crazy popular, pumpkin chai sold out in sticks in one day. It took one day for the sticks to sell out. There are less than a handful of the tins left, and I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do another run of it because it was just so popular. Like, you guys loved it so much and it was gone so fast. And we need it to last through November. Like, I need to make more. So coming this week, there will be more pumpkin chai in the shop. Go check back whenever you think of it. And pretty soon, within a couple days, I would say by Wednesday, I should have more in the shop. So in case you missed it, in case you missed the pumpkin chai, and people loved it. People sent me messages. They were like, this is fall in a balm. It's good stuff. So if you missed it, or if you need more, or if you need one for your mom or your sister or your coworker or your aunt or your son or your husband's feet, go and get one. But seriously, like, someone will put it on and we're all like, who's got the balm on? It just smells so, so good. Okay, just a reminder, the League of Extraordinary Sock Knitters opens up Friday after Thanksgiving. That's Friday, November 29th at noon. I know Julie and Deb are nervous about getting in. And some of you have said, I'm nervous. Like, after you said that, I'm like, well, am I going to get in? Here's what I think will happen. This is my prediction. I think that probably for like an hour, you can log in. It's going to go up at noon, Eastern time, daylight savings time, whatever the time is right now. I don't know. Or actually, the time changes tomorrow. Is the time change tomorrow? I don't know. I wait until my mom tells me. I think the time changes tomorrow. And whatever the time, noon is Eastern time on Friday after Thanksgiving, November 29th, I think that you'll have an hour. And then within that hour, you should be fine. After that, I don't know. You might have more time, but you might not. So there's enough for people to sign up for probably an hour, and then all bets are off. So if you want to be a part of the 2025 League of Extraordinary Sock Knitters, just set an alarm on your phone. Set it for, 11:45 or 11:55 or whatever, so that you're on and ready to go and you can refresh, and then you can go in and just leisurely put it in your cart and check out. There's not going to be cart jacking within the first hour. You should be good to go. Now within, I'm guessing, this is what I think will happen based on my regular popularity and how much people want stuff and how many I have. That's probably what will happen. So you should be good to go. Okay, moving on to the topic of the week. The topic of the week this week is my personal knitting. I usually tack on whatever I'm working on to the end of Progress and Shop News as like the progress. And this week, what I decided to do is to make Andrea Mowry's The Traveler Shell. Now, I have bought a lot of patterns. You might be like, Devin, what happened to the agave sweater? Didn't you buy that pattern? Yes, I did. I buy more patterns than I knit. Does anyone else do this? I had a lovely commenter last week say something like, I always really research the pattern. I look at all the projects before I buy it because I don't want to buy a pattern that I'm not going to knit. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be dumb. Who would do that? Yeah, me. I do that. But not only did I think I like this a lot, I want to wear it, I want to make it, but also I wanted to use slightly different gauge. I wanted to use a different weight of yarn, which would give me an opportunity to use my gauge Switcharoo worksheet, which is free on my website. And if I wanted to have kits in the shop in the future after it's finished, that would be fun too. So I decided to make that, and I knit a swatch here, and I made a little video explaining how I plugged in my information from my swatch into the worksheet. So here's that video. Okay, so here I am with my pattern, The Traveler Shell by Andrea Mowry. And I am using Frankfurt fingering. I don't plan on using this color. This is Fontaine, but I plan on knitting my sweater in pewter. So I have the pewter in Munich mohair and the Fontaine in Frankfurt fingering, just because that was what I had available. And all that really matters for my swatch is that I have the proper yarn. So I went ahead and knit up my swatch, and I did mark down my unblocked gauge and my blocked gauge, which are different. Now, the gauge in the pattern is always going to be your blocked gauge. So it's helpful to write down your unblocked gauge just to show, the difference, so that when you try it on, you know that when you block it, how much bigger it's going to get approximately. I mean, it's hard to really know that, to extrapolate that out. But anyway, with this particular stitch pattern, I did need a knitting counter because you are always changing between a knit row and a purl row. But it's really pretty, I think. I think it came out really good. I really like the stitch pattern. It is very interesting. So this pattern calls for a lace weight held together with a lace weight, but I wanted to use a fingering weight held together with a lace weight. So essentially the pattern calls for what would be a fingering weight, and I am using what would be kind of a light DK. So I am going to be showing you how I am using my Knitty McPurly Gauge Switcharoo worksheet. So let's just zoom in on that a little bit. And I have my pattern name and the designer and my chosen yarn, Knitty McPurly Frankfurt fingering plus Munich mohair. I'm working on US 4 needles which are the ones that are recommended in the pattern. Now, you could have gone another way with that. You don't have to use the needles recommended in the pattern, especially if your yarn weight is a little bit different, but I'm a little bit of a loose knitter, and a US 4 for a light DK weight is just fine for me. So if you're using this on your own, you can kind of read all this to help you out. This is available for free on my website. If you have not already downloaded it, go download it so that you can change the gauge of any pattern you want to. But let me just show you how I am using that for this pattern. So let's go to A here. My gauge is 21.5 stitches in 4 inches. My bust measurement in inches is 35. Now, desired positive ease in inches is a little tricky for this pattern because it doesn't close, but Andrea and I think, are about the same size. So typically, I would knit the size that she is. So she knit the size 2, and the size 2 is a 38-inch bust. So I'm going to say that my desired positive ease in inches, since I want it to be a 38, I'll say 3 inches because 35 plus 3 is 38. So then we're going to add B and C, 35 plus 3. This is the target bust measurement for the finished sweater in inches, 38 inches. Sorry, this is shaking a little bit. Okay, what E says, what is the gauge listed in the pattern? For example, if the gauge is listed as 23 stitches and 36 rows equals 4 inches, write 23. So in Andrea's pattern, it is listed as 24 stitches in 4 inches. Now that's kind of nice because I can divide that by 4 in my head. Divide E by 4, do not round. This is the pattern's stitches per inch. So this is nice and easy, nice, beautiful 6 with no decimals, but if I had decimals, I would want to keep those, don't round that. Okay, now this is the part where we have to depart from reality a little bit and do a little bit of guessing. What is the finished bust measurement of the size you want to make in inches? And here it says, just pick one. You can repeat the process if this size doesn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and say 38 because that is the bust measurement of size 2. Now that's probably not going to work because I am working with a different gauge. She is using 24 stitches over 4 inches and mine is 21.5, but it's kind of a nice place to start. And it's the size 2. I can only go down by 1 size. Letter H says, multiply F times G. So 6 times 38 is 228 stitches. So that is the number of stitches that Andrea has, presumably-ish. I don't know. It's also an open cardigan, and it's got front bands. But anyway, if it were a regular circumference, that is the number of stitches. Okay, then you're going to go either onto the back or the other side. And it says, divide A, your gauge, by 4. So my gauge is 21.5. And again, it says do not round. This is your number of stitches per inch. So here's an example of getting a lot of decimals. So if you divide 21.5 divided by 4, you get 5.375. We're not going to touch that number. Gauge numbers, we leave them in their awkward, messy, uncomfortable decimals. Now, if you divide H by I, H was 228, divided by 5.735, I'm going to get 42.41 inches. Now, that's bigger than I want, which makes sense. So I'm going to use a different writing tool so I can see the difference. So what's in purple here are the numbers for the size 2. Now, A through F are not going to change. But for G, I'm going to put down the bust measurement for size 1, which is 34 inches. Now, if I'm using size 1 and I multiply F times G, I get 204 stitches. 34 times 6 is 204. Now, if I divide my gauge by 4, again, this is the same number. That number won't change for this. Now I'm going to divide H, which is the number of stitches for size 1, which is 204, divided by I. So 204 divided by 5.375. Are you ready for this? Look how beautiful this is. It is 37.95, and I wanted 38. So what this means is that knitting the size 1 in my gauge will get me the bust measurement that I want. So success. Now, if you don't end up with a number that you like, in this instance, there are no more sizes to try because this is the size 1. What you can do in that situation is knit your swatch with a different needle. And by knitting with a different needle, you'll get a different gauge and you can presumably, knit a different size. So I hope that helps. I feel like the way that it's written here is pretty easy. You can just follow the directions. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope that was helpful. I feel like the worksheet itself does a pretty good job of explaining how to follow this math progression. And the second page is mostly dedicated to figuring out how much yarn you need. I am just going to guess because it's not that different. It's not going to be off by that much. If it's really important, or if you're using a very different gauge and you really need to know exactly how much yarn you need, you can go through all that math on the second page, but it is a lot of math and it can be a little bit confusing. So I don't mean to put you off of it. It's usable. If you need to know how much yarn you need, do that second page of the Gauge Switcharoo worksheet. But really the part that I showed you is the most important part, to choose which size you're making with the gauge that you have. Because a lot of times, if you want to knit with a different weight of yarn, you can. All you're gonna do is knit a different size of the pattern. It's so simple. It doesn't always work. Like in this example, luckily, the size 1 worked because there were no more sizes in that direction. If you wanted to make it in a thinner yarn and go the other way to knit a size bigger, or if your gauge moves in that direction, then you have a lot of choices to go from the size 2. But for most people, in most circumstances, the switcheroo will work. So go grab that if you don't have that already. Leave me comments if anything I said was unclear. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. Hopefully it all made sense. Okay, the comment section. Okay, I think the thing that many of you commented on that exploded my brain, like, I don't know, I just never thought about it before, was when I talked about how you can knit the sock inside out to keep the float stretched. And in my mind, you were knitting on the wrong side. So you turned it inside out and you were purling. And so many of you commented, you were like, no, Devin, that is not what you do. And the explanation I found a little confusing, but a wonderful podcast watcher named Annette sent me this picture. She said, you turn it inside out, but you are still knitting. And this keeps the floats to the outside. Genius. And many of you commented on that. Adela and Sharon, several of you said, no, you've got it all wrong. And this just exploded my brain. Because not only could this apply for socks, but you could knit sweaters this way, where you have it essentially turned inside out so that the floats are stretching around the outside, but you are still knitting from the inside. Who came up with this? Where are these smart people? So smart. Genius. Thank you all for that wonderful comment. Another comment that I got, this one was via email, and forgive me, I forgot to write down who sent me this comment, but the recommendation was that we look into Socks for Sam. And this is a nonprofit, I think, for this young boy who is an 8th grader who has this rare, terrible illness called vanishing white matter disease. it sounds a little, I mean, as somebody who knows nothing about medicine, it sounds a little bit like MS to me, kind of like where it's a gradual deterioration. I looked it up on the internet and it says it's a chronic, progressive, inherited neurological disorder that causes the deterioration of white matter in the brain and spinal cord. So this young boy has this disease, and apparently he's just the world's happiest kid, and that is magnetic. And I'm not sure who runs this organization. I know they're raising money, and I don't know if they're raising money for his treatment or if it is for a cure for this disease. I just couldn't find that information. So if you happen to know, leave me a comment and tell me what that is. But anyway, there is a knit along, and it starts in December. It's any sock, any pattern. You have 2 months. It's to raise awareness for this illness, but also you can donate the socks to be sold to raise money for the cause. Again, I'm not exactly sure where the money goes. I just didn't see that when I looked at the Instagram, but maybe there is more out there that I missed. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that to you. Apparently, these Socks for Sam bag people were walking around Rhinebeck, and it's a thing. So if you're interested in doing that, I would say a good place to start, where I started, was Instagram. If you Google #SocksForSam, you can find, and I can link some of this stuff down below, you can find the Instagram that's running it. Again, I didn't read every single post, just what I found is what I just told you, but there might be more out there. If you're interested in helping with that cause, or even just knitting along for awareness of the disease. Because the more we know about diseases and the more people talk about it, it can spur on things like trying to find a cure. Okay. Deborah says, hi Deborah, says, I remembered also that Summer Lee is moving, which might explain the lack of communication. We talked last time about many people have had problems with different patterns, and they've reached out and gotten no response. And my first response would be like, hey, Summer, where are you? What are you doing? But people said, she's moving, you know, give the woman a chance to move. One time, there was a lady who I feel like she bought a pattern and she couldn't download it. For some reason, she was just having a hard time downloading it. So she sent me an email saying, I can't download. And it was like Saturday night. And my husband and I were out to dinner. And I think I didn't see the first email, but then she started like spamming me. She's like, hello, are you there? I can't download my pattern. And I wrote back, I was like, it's Saturday night and I'm at a restaurant, but as soon as I get home, I will resend it to you. I don't even remember how we fixed it, but I think she was so mortified to realize that I was a human being with like a person. There was a person on the other end of that. She was real sweet after that. And I don't remember her name. So if you're watching, I don't remember your name. But it's easy to forget that, you know, people are people and, you know, they're doing stuff. So I think that Summer is probably just doing stuff. Deborah says, I did notice that someone else contacted the publisher of the book, which is a very good idea, regarding the Scandyland socks, and did not receive an answer either. Good to know about the mermaid socks, because Pam commented on those last time, as I was going to give those a try. Katie B says, I am so excited that it's already Advent calendar season. So much excitement. Okay, so right now, Gigi is downstairs in Knitty McPurly HQ putting these things together. She is packing them. She's getting them all ready to go out, and they're gonna go out in probably 1 week. Because I like to get them out at the beginning of November in case there's any shipping thing that causes them to be slow. Because they obviously December 1st is cast on day for whatever you want to cast on. I mean, you have to be able to open day 1 on December 1st. So they should ship out within 1 week, and then they will be on their way to your house. Yay, so exciting. One thing, just while I'm thinking of it, the Anne sweater. Gigi, I finally got pictures of Gigi wearing the Anne sweater, and here she is. Doesn't she look beautiful? This is the one that I made. I made several changes, and it ended up just fitting her beautifully. And I've been meaning to show these pictures to you, and it just came into my brain, so here they are. All right, Katie B goes on to say that pumpkin chai balm labels are beautiful. My friend already asked me to order her some too with my order as soon as it became available, and we all love it. Awesome. I also got a couple comments on my Jovis duster. Yarn Chicken, hi Tara, says, I highly encourage you to release the Jovis duster. I know you like the gown one, but I like yours the best out of the ones that you showed. And Kim also said, I think you should release your duster. It is the best one. So thank you so much for that vote of confidence, ladies. Maybe I will. Maybe I will do that. Rosie Thorne says, patterns designed by Chantal of Knititude, that's the designer of the Ridgeline duster, are typically made for beginners or advanced beginners, so they are great to follow. That's good to know. She says, also, I find the tubular cast on to be incredibly fiddly and use the alternating cable cast on. It's much easier to not twist the stitches, although it does take focus. Cool, so now I have 2 new cast-ons to learn. Texas Barn Lady says, oh my, I totally choked on my coffee and almost lost it through my nostrils. Protect your gauge. I love your podcast. She says, Summer Lee's sock patterns are awesome. I really am leaning towards thinking I need to be in your sock club. And also, I would rather bleed than lose something off my needles. I think that there is an argument to be made for, in the which is worse category, like which is worse, losing my needles / project or getting stabbed? I don't know. I guess it depends on how bad the stab is and how bad the project loss is. But really, it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Foxbane Fibers says, I think we need to just rename stitch stoppers to stabby stoppers instead. Yes, for sure. I'm also wondering if emails to Summer Lee may be going to her junk or spam folder, causing her not to see them. You guys are just so sweet. You are such a wonderful group of people, because like your first instinct is to go, there's some reason why Summer can't respond. She's moving or they've gone to her spam folder. Like that's just so dear. It might be that she's not ignoring her followers, but having technical issues she isn't even aware of. How kind. Andrea asked about the socks in the sock club, and she says, are the socks going to be fingering weight only or a mix of weights? And that's a good question. Again, there's like 20 patterns in the book. I've chosen 12 of them, and those are the ones we're gonna do. So most of them are fingering weight, but they are not all fingering weight. Some of them will be different depending on what the yarn called for in the pattern is. Whatever the yarn called for in the pattern is, that's the yarn that you will get to make it. Okay. Whew. Knitting fantasies. So I went looking for some knitting patterns, and I found this gorgeous sweater called the Robin Sweater by Paula Strict. Strict means knitting in some European languages like Danish and German, maybe, I think. Holland? I don't know. That is, anyway, it's many European languages. I'm not sure which European country Paula comes from, but her sweater is beautiful. It looks a lot like my Hepburn sweater. However, the Hepburn sweater is extremely basic. All it is, it has an optional turtleneck, raglan shaping that goes down a little bit longer to form the bat wing. It's very simple. This sweater, she says, it uses the Italian cast on, short rows, left and right increases, double symmetrical decreases, and a sewn tubular bind off. So she puts this at difficult level advanced, but it's beautiful. So I would say, like, if you're in the market for a sweater of this type, think, what kind of knitting do you want to do? And what ultimate shape in the end do you want? While the Hepburn sweater is simpler, and I almost wore that today, but it's just a little too warm. And mine has the full turtleneck. This one just has like a little bit of a mock neck. What kind of knitting do you want to do? because this sounds interesting to me. Like, I'm intrigued by this. I would love to try all of these techniques. But if you're more of a beginner, you might want to try something more like Hepburn. Anyway, this comes in 5 sizes, and it is knit in sport weight. My second pick, I just think is so, so cute. It is the Timbo Vest by Knit Fit Art. It is suitable for beginners. It is knit in chunky weight yarn, which is synonymous with bulky. Chunky and bulky typically are synonymous. It comes in 5 sizes. It says it's knit in the round, but I think it's just the bottom part that's knit in the round. Beyond that, you're going to be knitting front and back and forth for the front and the back yoke. But check out this shoulder detail. I just think it's so cute. What an adorable vest. So, so cute. All right, moving right along to So Here's What Happened. All right, this story comes from a lovely podcast watcher named Kathy. Hi, Kathy. It's a short story. Kathy says it is a sad story, but I've seen the pictures and I don't think it's as sad as she says. I'll show you the picture at the end. She says, I can't believe that I have a very sad story. A short story, but sad. I'm pretty new to sock knitting, but wanted to be the best sock knitter east of the Mississippi, which, by the way, I think is awesome. I think a lot about excellence and how I love excellence and competence and perfection, not in a bad way, but in a good way. And I love that. Wanting to be the best sock knitter east of the Mississippi is an amazing goal. She says, besides, I need to get ready for the Knitty McPurly sock knitting. So I cast on self-striping yarn for the most coolest pair of socks I ever owned. Got out my fall smelling candle, because you have to have ambiance when knitting a cool pair of socks, right? I tried so very hard not to make a mistake. Counting, making sure that I didn't drop any stitches, I finally finished the sock, admiring my work. Thinking this wasn't so bad, I thought I better try on the sock to see how it fits. Very excited to see the finished product on my foot, I slipped on the sock oh so very gently over my big foot. The sock fit. Looking down to admire my work with happiness, quickly turned to horror. I noticed a mistake. My toe decreases were going down the top of my foot and not the side. The moral of the story is that only my shoe will see where the lines go. Maybe I'll try to do the same on the second pair and call it a design. She says, I am not a writer and obviously not a knitter of socks. So here's the picture. I think it's okay, don't you think? I think that no one would ever notice. You know that the decreases are supposed to be on the side, but if it's not uncomfortable, then just go with it. Do your second sock the same way, put the decreases that way, and just lean into it and pretend that's how it always was supposed to be. Nobody's gonna know. Awesome. Thank you so much for that lovely story, Kathy. Everybody has had something like that before, and you have to kind of look at it and go, can I live with this? Because worst case scenario, you just rip the toe out and reknit it. That's the worst case scenario. A toe does not take very long, maybe an hour tops. So you could do that if you wanted to, but I think it's fine. I think you just knit both socks like that and you just call it a day. I hope you guys had a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. My daughter goes home tomorrow. I'm a little sad to see her go, but she's so happy at school that I'm happy that she's happy. So have a wonderful week, and I will see you here again next Saturday. Bye, knitters.